Oops, I picked the wrong song. Hello, people who might be watching this in video on demand or watching it live. My name is Ibarra. And I've been gone for a very long time. And I promise you, everything will be okay. Cause I'm gonna be here with you for now. Hope you don't mind me reading a story for you. Not to worry. Everything will be fine. I had to adjust something real quick. I think we're good. Yeah. That way you can hear my voice so clearly. I'm going to read your story based on a video game that everyone knows, called OMORI. In this particular story, it's about the characters Basil and Sunny. Well, based around what they're up to at this point, I don't know. So allow me to read the summary before I get into the title and then the story itself. Here it is. When he had asked about how to proceed, his counselor had a glimmer in her eye and said simply, "Just talk with him, clear and to the point. Get to what matters." If only it was simple as she put it. Coming down from a high, that was the idea of his best friend acting as his savior instead of another struggling human being. Riding the waves of his perceptions of their diminished friendship over those painful 4 years. Replaying memories passed over and over again in his head as Basil ran his finger over the scribbled photographs he didn't have the heart to repair, but knew what their contents were by heart. It was a lot to get over. He really has tried to get better. But in quiet moments like these, where Basil's heart cried out pitifully for a gentle solace. Sometimes he sometimes reverted into incorrect thoughts, like Sunny knows best. Old habits die hard. Basil and Sunny talk. They had needed to do for a while. This is A Little Drop of Perfect by Mirror to the Past. Basil frowned as he considered the drooping dahlias crammed haphazardly into the rickety, rusted rows of the fixed gardening section before him. It always seems like this crumbling establishment tried to bite off more than it could chew. Though the sign was becoming faded and was falling apart at the front of the store, still, there were countless flowers shoved into supply. Although Basil appreciated the owner's fervor to retain the semblance of the variety in their stock, he couldn't help his indignation when he would come across these wilted displays of their products and the steps should be taken care of, especially during dry spells like the one happening this spring. It made his heart feel strangely tight, looking at those pitiful petals. Well, Basil supposed it wasn't strange at all. His heart was oftentimes like a leaky tap, dripping and dripping against his will. If only he could put a bucket out to catch his emotions, if he wanted to entertain the metaphor. A tap on Basil's shoulder startled him. Are those the ones you want? Sonny was with him today. It wasn't too common of an occurrence, so Basil always made it up of his mind to enjoy himself to the fullest, and his best friend could take the long journey from Gloucester City. Unfortunately, the visits felt somewhat straining at times as a result. Following Sonny and Basil sending each other to the hospital and the truth coming out, Basil's life had flipped upside down for the second time. Instead of Aubrey bullying him like normal, after she exploded at him in the hospital in the scene very reminiscent of when she first found the photo album, she had stayed away from him. No cruel comments were thrown at him, no petty jokes or foul play done to him. Just nothing. Sometimes Basil would still catch her eye when she'd leave her house, and there would be moments where she'd just stare at him. Moments that both filled Basil with hope founded on shifting sand, and fear and disgust with himself as rooted to his inner sight as an oak's roots were to the soil. Kel had gone back to keeping his distance from him. He'd never hesitate to say hello to Basil whenever he was around him, but it was always the way to somewhere or, "Oh, I was hanging out with some of my team, didn't expect to see you here," or some other greetings presented warmly, yet still somehow indifferently. Or maybe Basil was just overthinking things and assuming people hated him as he always did. Who knows? It hardly seemed like Kel hung around Basil. It hardly seemed like Kel hung around Basil purely for Basil anymore. There were rare occasions he'd ask Basil if he wanted to tag along, but Basil always messed these kinds of things up. It was probably for the best he didn't bother Kel too much. Kira had been the one to help Polly with setting him up for the therapy. Not taking Basil distancing himself from him for an answer. Apparently, while in medical school, he met somebody who knew a guy that was in the area, and that was how Basil met Dr. Manon. Kira had been surprisingly involved with it, asking Basil if he was comfortable with everything and whatnot. And Basil had even asked him at one point why he cared so much. After everything, he was presented with a simple statement: "I don't want anything to get out of hand again, and I'm tired of messing up." It was an ironic statement, as Basil felt like knew that Hero was the one of the group, who always kept himself to put together. Hero had carried him out of his bloodied room that night. Basil knew that he had a stable head on his shoulders, but even so, Hero seemed like he felt some sort of failure, always letting things pass him by, and whatever he wanted to do right by himself or others where he felt it mattered, it seemed like it never worked out. They understood each other in that way. Hero seemed more stern and paternal with him since the confession. Basil wouldn't say that he hated someone for taking care of him, and it's not like Polly was that much older than he was either. But sometimes he wished that he could have Hero back as a friend, and not a chaperone. He wouldn't push his luck though. Hero couldn't be happy with him after everything. Basil looked up and to his left with a tired gaze, backlining the curve that came with his protruding blue eyes that Basil hated so much. There was always red rim in all his lower eyelid, making him look like he had been crying for hours, his electric blue eyes appearing only as a trembling pulse ready to let loose and flood at any moment. I don't know. They don't look like they're doing that well. That didn't seem to deter Sunny whatsoever, who merely shrugged casually. That shouldn't be a problem. Why not? You've always been able to fix a wilted plant ever since I first met you. You never gave up. Basil evaluated the dahlias further. He couldn't help but feel that after everything, he had lost that touch when it comes to fixing things. Whenever he seemed to try to help, he always made things worse. His broken or strained friendships were an indicator. Sunny's eyes was an indicator. Mari's dead. Basil blinked slowly. His heart sank further. I don't know, Sunny. I'd had to keep a closer eye on them, and I don't think I'm up for it. I'm already taking care of a lot of plants for school this semester. I joined the gardening club. Did I tell you that already? Basil trailed off absent-mindedly. You did. Oh. Basil trusted the impeccable memory of his friend before saying anything else. If Sunny said it happened, it probably did. He may appear sidetracked most of the time, but when he noticed something, that observation never seemed to escape his steel trap of a mind. Sunny was typically right about most things. Basil resisted the urge to stamp into the ground like a courageous toddler. He did it again. The thoughts came rushing back that he shouldn't have done what he did today. That being walking about far away, going shopping, and now standing in the fix-it with Sunny. It had taken over a year counseling with Dr. Manning, pecking away at Basil's damaging perceptions of the world around him. And he was now on adulthood's doorstep, realizing he was ready for nothing, and with little semblance of healthy relationship in his life. Namely Sunny. It had been called out as corresponded a while ago. Basil wouldn't say that he was surprised. Basil may have been some crazed, psychotic idiot, but he still had enough of a grasp on his self-awareness to realize waiting for your best friend that you hadn't seen since they were almost 13 to come and save you from a muddled mess of your mind wasn't conventionally normal. Naturally, having the guilty pleasure of his life put on display in an unhealthy light made him freak out all over again. Basil had snapped after the session where it was addressed, leaving in a frantic flurry of voicemails in Sunny's Nokia explaining desperately how Basil was a bad influence for him, and it was best that they never saw each other again. And as Basil's extremist mentality at the time put it. Sunny had plainly texted back, "Just wait a week, but we can have some space," which had gone unnoticed by Basil at first, who had powered off his own phone and slammed it into the desk drawer to let it rot until the end of time, for the good of everyone. And he had proudly declared to his counselor what he had done to regain the reins of his life. The doctor herself had shaken her head, somewhat amused, and told him that it was the best that they simply established and worked on strict boundaries if he and Sunny would keep feeling comfortable with their relationship, and it didn't hinder either of the progress. Basil, of course, had been at a loss, mouth grasping as he slouched uncomfortably into a plush chair of Dr. Manning's office, feeling a bit bashful about how to proceed following his melodramatic display. When he had asked about how to proceed, his counselor had a glimmer in her eye, and said simply, "Just talk with him. Clear and to the point. Get to what matters." If only it was simple as she put it, coming down from a high, that was the idea of his best friend acting as his savior instead of another struggling human being, riding the waves of his perceptions of a diminished friendship over those painful 4 years, replaying memories passed over and over again in his head. As Basil ran his finger over her scribbled photographs, he didn't have the heart to repair, but knew what their contents were by heart. It was a lot to get over. He really has tried to get better, but in quiet moments like these where Basil's heart cried out painfully for a gentle solace, he sometimes reverted to the incorrect thoughts like, Sunny knows best. Old habits die hard. He never had that clear talk with Sunny that the counselor suggested. He should have, but Basil never was a gutsy personality. When he had meekly called up Sunny a week after the session, cautiously thinking back the parts of what he said, Sunny had assured him that he didn't mind and understood. Sunny was always the more forbearing of the two, especially with Basil. Though the boundaries talk would have been a good one to have, Basil had taken it upon himself to be more keen of others' feeling after hearing those words. When Sunny's monotone voice seems to strain over call, Basil would take it as a sign to wish him good night. And Sunny didn't respond to his text right away. Basil would quell the voices telling him he had been abandoned again and allow him to need the space. It wasn't easy, and there was sometimes he'd march up to Polly and wordlessly place his phone in her hands. When she first saw this take place and asked what she would do with it, Basil firmly told her to hide it from him. She heeded his advice with all the consciousness of 10 men put together and never questioned it then on out. Basil wasn't sure if it helped with how Sunny thought of him, but Basil could at least say on his own end that the time apart physically and verbally gave Basil the opportunity to, sometimes literally, stop and smell the roses. It was easier without the incident from 4 years ago playing in the loop in his mind. And even though he didn't have any other friends, sometimes the time with himself didn't sting as harshly as it did before. Even so, at times like these, it was difficult. With Sunny here, living and breathing next to him, Basil couldn't lock him away in a drawer or give him to Polly to hide away like a child's Halloween stash. Ironically enough, Basil felt like he was the one who needed more space. Maybe that loss of control was what made these visits from Sunny so hard. It wasn't that he didn't want to see him. It's just that Basil didn't even know what to do with himself. Basil, hey Sunny. Both boys stopped and chuckled lightly. Sunny's face lit up with an upturned smile. His remaining eye that smoldered like a charcoal crinkled with a soft simper that curved his lips into a tiny, graceful bow. Basil's smile was more of like an inelegant wobble. He looked away from Sunny's face and to the ground. You first, Sunny. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. You go. No, you! Sunny sighed. We're not getting anywhere with this. Then, you go first. Stubborn. Sunny considered it for a moment, but caved. He typically did when it came to what his friends wanted, for better or for worse. You just seemed far away. I'm in far away, so that's Basil. Basil awkwardly chuckled. Sorry. He cleared his throat. I guess I kind of am. He said elusively. He didn't really know how to start. Talk about it. Do I have to? Unless you don't feel comfortable, I guess. Comfortable. It seemed like Sunny was more in his wavelength more than he thought. A passing observation that made Basil's heart sing like a little more than it should, causing him to internally bob himself in the wrist. No, bad. Although having a therapist certainly gave Basil more options, nothing would quite beat confiding in his best friend, just like old times. Of course, now that he has less of a self-centered child and person, Basil now had thoughts like, what if I'm blundering him? And what if he feels so obligated to do so? Which made things a little more complicated. He supposed that was a good start. Sunny, are we okay? Not exactly. Sunny sniped back quickly. Although he was a good listener, Sunny was always quick with replies when he wanted to be. His brain seemed to run at a million miles an hour. Sunny could oftentimes hardly keep up. Let me think of how to say it. Alright. Basil mused over his thoughts for a moment. Do you think I'm giving you the respect that you deserve? Sunny blinked. I kinda feel weird about the whole deserving thing. Do you think Basil quickly put a stop to that. No, it's not you because you're you. It's you as a human being. I don't... He sighed. He already was having a hard time with this. If only he could write this as a letter instead of ringing it in person. He was always better at writing his thoughts down on a paper, in nice, neat, organized blips. I've kind of seen you as something else for a while, as something that wasn't my best friend. It wasn't good. I'm getting better, for your sake and mine. Sunny nodded wordlessly, urging Basil to go on. And I've been putting off saying something for a while now. It's been great, being able to talk with you even after you moved, but sometimes I worry. You worry? Sunny raised his eyebrows with a subtle jab. Stop you. Basil chuckled despite himself. What I was going to say is I worry I'm not being good to you. Not because you deserve it or anything, but because... I'm not saying it right. You do deserve it. It's not like the pedestal... It's just not like the pedestal I put you on. Kind of deserving. Am I making sense? Or making this weird? We've been weird since day one, Basil. Fair enough. To get to the point, even though I think I'm violating some sort of confidentiality rule, I was told a while ago that I needed to set boundaries with you, and I never did. You know why? Why? Because I am a passive idiot. Basil's voice echoed into otherwise empty fix-it. It wasn't even an angry yell, but more of a shout of accountability of the universe. Basil having its share in his declaration. The store would probably be closing soon, but Basil couldn't bring himself to care that much right now. You sound a little too proud of that. I'm not proud. I just needed to get out there. Well, Go on. I just... I needed to talk to you for a while now. You said it yourself. You wanted to make sure I'm comfortable. Well, it's only right I do the same for you. You matter a lot to me. And after everything, it's the least I can do. So... what does this entail? Basil imagined he had a list with him. Well, first of all, you do feel like us talking with each other is hindering your improvement as a person? Do you feel like you're talking with me out of sense of duty? Do you get stressed when we interact? Do you feel like something positive out of our interactions? Do you feel like my presence in your life upon your personal identity? Jeez, Base, hold on. Sorry. Sunny interrupted. You're talking fast again. He closed his eye and had lifted his hand. He lifted a hand to his chin contemplatively. No, sometimes, but don't worry about it. Yes. And that's a can of worms of a question. Therapy has done a number on you, huh? Sunny blinked. Well, that was fast. No, it's been helping me. Yeah, but you sound so... Sunny stretched. Professional? Conscientious. Basil corrected him. Uptight. Sunny revised. Basil really did stomp his foot this time. Sunny! He whined petulantly. I'm trying to help us. And you have a stick up your ass when you're helpful. I have nothing up my... Basil's face heated. Not with that attitude. If Basil didn't love him so much, he had slammed Sunny's face into the dahlias. But he'd been cautious about anything regarding Sunny's face since the eye patch incident. It was so difficult to stay on topic with him. Anyway, Basil huffed. I just want to ask, is there anything I should be doing differently? You're going to hate me for saying it again, but... His voice cracked, and his eyes began to water, but he wouldn't let himself cry. I've hurt you so much, and I think that it's the least I can do to make things right. I can change whatever happens between us, but I can work out on making things better here right now. I couldn't ever hate you. What? Basil's eyes finally snapped after focusing on the gravelly floor beneath him for far too long. Sunny looked so surprisingly sheepish. I thought it was pretty obvious how... He stopped himself. Basil didn't pursue it. He only waited. You're worried that you're being overbearing again, right? Basil rubbed his arms nervously. Yeah, he whispered. Is that what they told you? Yeah, and they're right. I don't want you to tell me otherwise. It's true. I've been a bad person and most of all a bad friend. Sunny was quiet. I guess that's fair. Basil stung, even though he was the one who said it himself. It hurt more hearing from the man himself. But Sunny's face began to twitch. Clearly he was becoming nervous. I've been overbearing too. Sunny blinked. That wasn't what he was expecting. Overbearing. Really? This was coming from a boy who locked himself in his house for 4 years. How? He was sure his face was of complete confusion. Basil, this is... Sunny's hand raised, and he lifted his hands to his face, hiding half of it seemingly from... Was he being bashful? You're not the only one who saw somebody as something they weren't. Basil stayed silent. For that time I was... Sunny sucked his breath in. You know... Basil nodded. He knew. I was dreaming. You told me about some of your dreams. They sounded nice. Or the worst part. I haven't told you the half of it. I'm sorry. I'm willing to wait. It's okay. Sunny blinked at him gracefully. Well, the important part is one thing. For all that time, I wasn't able to do anything. I was scared. Cowardly. So everything I wanted to do, I did in my head. The thing I wanted to do most was give someone I knew needed help. Basil sat down, mouth agape, like an overeager elementary schooler at story time. Sunny lowered himself to a dusty ground beside Basil, readying his quiet voice for a speech that would likely fulfill his mouthy quota when it came to speaking 4 times over. I know how it was because it... I know now it was because it gave me some sense of fulfillment. I didn't want to feel helpless. Everything else was a mess. I wanted control, so I boxed this person in. And they became a concept. Not a person. Just a promise of a light at the end of the tunnel. Sunny chuckled darkly, a sound Basil didn't like hearing from him. Despite enjoying hearing him laugh, it was different. I was obsessed, no doubt about it. Every time I get into the end, whatever journey I came up with, a smile would be waiting for me. I felt so proud of myself. It was sick. All I wanted was for that person to fall into my arms and tell me I did something right. And for once, I was able to be there for someone else. Sunny. Basil couldn't help but interrupt. He wasn't as good of a listener. He couldn't help himself. You've been there for others plenty of times. Don't be hard on yourself. You're not perfect, but that doesn't mean that you haven't done good. Think of Aubrey talking to you about her parents and Kel playing games with you. Sunny flinched. Basil sprung into action, tripping on his words. I'm sorry, I talked too much. I should have not mentioned them. I just thought we were talking about the past, and so... His voice trembled. Sunny extended his hand out to give Basil's a little squeeze. Perhaps it was for his own comfort as well as Basil's. It's fine. You were right. We were talking about the past. It's going to hurt. I know that now. Basil exhaled breezily and waited as he had always done for Sunny to continue. It was really cruel of me. I was really cruel. Basil spit back his protest at Sunny's harsh words against himself again. Memories of what had happened in the past flashed on his mind. And it wasn't even fair that he denied that. It was just especially hard for Basil to condemn him after all the horrible things he had done as well. But even if there was a truth of it. Instead of trying to fix my life in the real world, I took the easy way out. I did that same loop so many times, Basil. I did the same thing over and over again. And for what? So I could be told I'd be cherished forever by someone. Basil's face burned with a multitude of emotions. Really? His voice came out as a whisper. Yeah. Sorry for dropping that bomb. I should have just stopped being a reclusive and done some actual saving instead of wasting all that effort on. Sunny looked incredibly sheepish himself. Basil shook his head furiously. No, I might have agreed with you a while ago, and maybe that part of me still wants to, but it's not fair to pin that on you. I never should have asked you to promise something you couldn't keep. Sunny's face turned into a deep frown. Basil's face began to mirror his friend's. He couldn't help it. He hated seeing like this. Sunny, it's okay. Please. He leaned forward to be nearer to him. He wanted Sunny to know that he wasn't alone. They were brushing shoulders as they had leaned back against the stiff metal stands. Birds chirped in the silence that rang out in the late evening. Basil began to hear Sunny sniffle a little. Naturally, Basil wanted to fill that uncomfortable silence with words of comfort. But he knew better now. Sometimes without guilt or shame, one just had to let the tears fall. It pained Basil. He'd never not want to try to fix a sad solution, especially when it was his best friend in the picture. But that had done him a fat load of help in the past, didn't it? So he let Sunny cry. Basil let the thoughts flow through Sunny's own head, and didn't even try to interrupt them with his own. He didn't try to smother his feelings with an overbearing presence. He just sat next to him, letting him know he was there. I'm sorry. Sunny croaked out. Basil wasn't sure if he should say something or if Sunny was being self-deprecating again. Maybe he should just wait. Sorry. I couldn't be everything you wanted me to be. Basil couldn't keep quiet at that. What? What do you mean? Sunny tried to get the words out, but just cried harder. He had gotten better at crying. It seemed, as that sounded. Basil had learned that it was alright to be sad, but felt like he had learned that more from Sunny more than through therapy. Basil remembered how stiff and cold he had been when Sunny finally came out of his house. His eyes had bored into Basil's very soul, and it made him want to shrivel into the floor. He hated seeing his friend like that. When they finally looked at each other in the hospital, with tears in their eyes, Basil couldn't help but think at how right Sunny looks like that. He looked human. Every time Sunny let himself laugh or let himself cry, be it over the phone or in person, Basil could swear it was like a piece of his old, dear friend came back to place. You thought I was the best friend anyone could ask for, and you thought I was a good listener, and you thought I was pure and everything that was wonderful, but I was really that selfish. I used you and everyone else who thought I was good, but especially you. I wanted you to feel like I had a place. I like feeling like I meant everything to someone. I wanted to be taken care of. I never thought about you or anyone. The words hadn't toppled from Sunny's trembling lips like it was Cynthia's day at the hospital. It was like he was confessing his crimes all over again. Basil wasn't sure what to do at this point. Should he reach out or stay away? Sunny was shaking. His shoulders were shaking. Basil wanted to steady him. But was it his place? Sunny tossed himself to the side like his body, still smaller than the most boys their age, was only a rag doll. He plumped into Basil's outstretched and indecisive arms. Basil couldn't help but be reminded of the photograph of Mari, snuggling hugging Sunny's sniffling 12-year-old form. But Basil hesitantly closed his arms around Sunny's head, which was buried into his chest and wetting his shirt. Basil lifted his head upwards, feeling a sudden breeze drift through the outdoor section. He hoped that Mari wouldn't laugh too much at Basil's sorry attempts being there for the one that mattered to him. Trust me on this one, Mari. Basil couldn't help but plead to an open air. He only hoped that he could try his best from what she saw him, from how she carried herself. Sunny mumbled something Basil couldn't hear into his chest. So Basil responded to petting Sunny's dusky mop of hair that he always seemed to have a hard time keeping in check. You deserve better than me. Sunny sulkily lifted his face for a few inches from Basil's embrace, which left Basil in a state of shock. He pushed him away, his hands rooted on Sunny's shoulders. Are you kidding me? After everything that's happened, that's the conclusion you reach? That's why I keep thinking about you. Basil wanted to shake him, but he knew he could never do such a thing with solid conscience, as well as just generally being a better way to communicate, even if they were in particular struggled in that department. Sunny seemed to be unable to meet Basil's eyes. Basil felt like he was going crazy. What sort of topsy-turvy world has he living in which Sunny thought Basil was too good for him? Look at me, Basil urged him. Please. Sunny reluctantly met Basil's desperate stare, appearing timid, but his expression was also becoming filled with a pique in hearing Basil's counter. Basil wasn't sure how to begin. Surely, everything he could say would drive his friend off? That's what Basil was scared of at the most, despite his journey for independence. Although, at this point, it was less of a deliberating fear of being alone, and more of the idea of filling his clothes. His and Sunny's. Basil just didn't want to get in the way anymore. What could he do? Sunny, Basil started feeling his stare brim over him intensely, and his leaky tap heart fizz over. I know things are different now. Sometimes I worry if we still know each other, or if I'm forcing myself into your life, or whatever thing I want to keep to myself up at night with. But I don't think you're any different from how you were when I first met you. I think I'm just seeing you in ways I hadn't before. Yeah, sure, you always listen to me talk about my problems, but you run off with Kel when you got bored of me talking about flowers. Sure, you would come to every hangout when we all talk about on the treehouse, but you hardly helped out in actually building the dang thing. Sunny chuckled through his tears. And I'm sorry for bringing this up. Sure, you promised me you'd always be there for me, but you also blacked out the photo album you left me for a really long time. Basil felt his own voice cracked, and Sunny trembled over his script again. And you know what? That's great. Basil sported a wobbly smile. I'm glad I can finally see you as a human instead of my perfect, adorable best friend who could do no wrong. Because we both knew where that got us. And after all the horrible, selfless things that I've done and thought we finally are on the same level, then... No more of this, you're too good for me. Either from us. We both suck. Sunny laughed a little harder, his trembling voice ceasing at once. That's that then? That's that. Basil's eyes were welled up with tears, which were starting to pull down his cheeks, but was still able to give Sunny a smile. He was good at that. Sunny wiped away his tears with one arm and tried to regain composure. I'm glad I came back. The end of this journey was a way better one. Basil drew his arms away from Sunny's shoulders, but still remained close enough to him to hear Sunny's murmuring tones, leaning forward with anticipation, planting his hands into the fixed, gritty dirt floor. Yeah, if someone had asked me a while ago, I probably would have said that I like a person in my dreams more. How they always greeted me with a smile. Sorry. Let me try this again. Yeah, if someone had asked me a while ago, I probably would have said that I liked the person in my dreams more. How they greeted me with a smile, with a mere gentle and sweet. With their green hair and never said anything painful. Green hair, huh? Basil whispered back. Sunny breezily laughed at Basil's raised eyebrows. Yeah. Pretty green, but anyway, I don't really like him much at all, now that I learned to see them different too. I don't want to be around someone who's happily all the time. That's kind of boring. I agree. And when I actually got around to look, I found out many wonderful things that I was missing out missing out on a while I was with them. Basil hummed with happiness. You should tell him that. Oh, it's him now? Sunny's charcoal-eyed gnawed at his head darted towards Basil's playfully, like a snapping fish. The dying daylight was catching in his eye, bouncing off his sallow cheekbones, still stained with the dry tear streaks. Still strained with dry tear streaks. Sunny's side of smirk petered out from his teasing visage, and he looked more serious. You really changed, Basil. I hope that's a good thing. Sunny leaned forward a bit more, placing his hand on each of Basil's kneecaps, as he sat Taylor's style. Basil hadn't realized his fingers, that they were wrapped around his knees, were tapping ferociously against them. Sunny's hand stilled on Basil's nervous ticks. I think so. You're still a little jittery though. Sunny had changed a lot too. Even before everything, Sunny never seemed to articulate this well, especially not well enough to send Basil into a fluster like this. He was still plenty driftly, but sometimes now he daydreamed about things Basil wouldn't want to ask him about that Sunny would tease and prod him with. He still enjoyed art, but he never wanted to touch another crayon in his life. He was still plenty lazy, but sometimes Sunny would have sudden, spontaneous episodes that Basil would have had a hard time keeping up with. But goddammit, he would always try, and embrace all of those small or larger changes in Sunny, and had missed out with from all of that time lost between them. And why? Because Basil couldn't hold himself back, even though he had called upon all of his self-restraint in the world and all of the memories of his therapy sessions to stop himself from mucking things up again, and launched forward to kiss Sunny. Because that boy, even with all of those faults and changes littering his being, and all of the bad memories they both shared, still meant more than words they could say. And still was perfect. Basil slapped his wrist again. Eternally, no, not perfect. They were so messed up, and Basil knew that now. Both of them equally, because they were people. But optimism was optimism for a reason. And as Basil tasted those honeyed lips of his best friend, he couldn't help but accept in that moment that there was a little drop of perfect in everyone. There had to be. What else could explain this feeling? At least, that was what Basil's sleekly, brimming heart was grasping at him. It grasped him more than Sunny kissed back. It grasped him more when Sunny kissed back. And Basil felt that grasp come up in his own parted lips. Sunny's hands nodded into his own, still planted into Basil's knees. He had to admit that Sunny kissed much harder than Basil would have expected from someone who seemed as ethereal as he, but he wouldn't complain, of course. When they drew apart, hearts frantically beating in anxious unison, they couldn't find it in their nervous selves to bring their eyes away from each other's face. Basil wanted to wax poetic about something, but his brain was too buzzed, too drunk to his new magnificent foreign feeling to get any words out. He spluttered the ones as he usually did. Sunny, of course, always had the hard time showing how much things made him feel internally, and did as Sunny does. You still might have a competition if other you still has that green hair though. Basil lurched forward and shut Sunny's drool of comment down, where it withstood with another kiss, fully reveling in the feel of the other, and pulling his hands out from the other boy's anchored grasp to reach up and cup his face. Even despite the heat curling in his belly, Basil still felt like he wanted to cry at this sensation being everything he had imagined it would be, but never thought it would come to pass. Sunny leaned back again and allowed Sunny to kiss him close. Basil to kiss him close and tenderly, as he had always wanted to do, signing their faces where they best fit. When under his own mouth, Basil felt Sunny's cupid bow curved into a childish smile, filled with the the unstick passion of a young affection. Basil felt his leaking heart run over. He blamed it on that last drop of perfect. That Sunny probably dipped in there. And that was A Little Drop of Perfect by Mirror to the Past. I'm surprised that there's no viewers that came up for that one, but hey, this might get more views once it gets in video on demand, but it could have been better if there are live viewers. But what to do at this point? This was the longest story that I've ever read, to be honest. But till then, you guys really need to go back to sleep. Or stay awake. Who knows? You guys been asleep the whole time. I gotta say that return was sort of a, you know, unexpected, but what to do, I don't have enough numbers. But I'm just glad to be back. I have always wanted to come back, but like I've been a bit hesitant because I've been busy with a lot of things. And obviously I have tried to come back from this one, but I just couldn't. In the meantime, I feel like I had to celebrate this comeback for a bit. And I figured it's gonna be best to do it with a karaoke. Now hold on a second here. Now, I don't know how much of the volume I need to fix with this one, but hopefully everything goes well on this one. I will be singing 2 songs to end the stream. And for those who are watching this in video on demand, hope you guys enjoy. We passed upon the stair. We spoke of was and when, although I wasn't there. He said I was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes, I thought you died alone. a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. I laughed and shook his hand and made my way back home. I searched for a foreign land. For years and years I roamed. I gazed a gazely stare at all the millions here. We must have died alone a long, long time ago. Who knows? Not me. We never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. Who knows? Not me. We never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. All I can say right now is that, um, I practiced a bit on reading this thing, but I didn't read the end because I didn't want to spoil myself, but I didn't expect that part. And I can't deny, I like that ending. But anyways, I'm gonna have to end the stream right here. Just a bit sad that no live viewers happen to see this, but if people are seeing this in video on demand, hope you guys enjoy the reading. And hopefully I will make another stream. Probably with just chatting or something else. I don't know. But I probably have to do it at a different time because I don't think there's gonna be a viewer at this kind of time. So who knows? We're gonna end it with this song. For the karaoke, I mean. shadows fall down to Gorky Park, listening to the wind of change. An August summer night, soldiers passing by, listening to the wind of change. The world is closing in. Did you ever think that we could be so close, like brothers? The future's in the air, you feel it everywhere, blowing with the wind of change. Take me to the magic of the moment on the glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. Walking down the street of distant memories are buried in the past forever. I followed the Moskva down to Gorky Park, listening to the wind of change. Take me to the magic of the moment on the glory night, where the children of tomorrow share their dreams with you and me. Take me to the magic of the moment on the glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. The wind of change blows straight into the face of time, like a storm wind that will rain the freedom though, the peace of mind. Let your balla like I sang what my guitar wants to say. Take me to the magic of the moment on the glory night, where the children of tomorrow share their dreams with you and me. No one heard that crack, okay? Take me to the magic of the moment on the glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. For those people who might be watching this video on demand, thank you for watching. And if you want more of this fanfiction reading, consider subscribe or just keep up with it, because I know there might be some people who might be watching this as not as subscribers, but regardless, hope you guys enjoy it. And see you all later.
One more day, the sun reaches my bed. One more day to spend alone again. Morning starts without me. I seem to find it hard to wake up. Steadily, my thoughts take hold of me. It's hard to stay awake or fall asleep. Memories of the past, both the good and the bad, overwhelm me. There's so much I wish I could take back. Sometimes I think maybe it's too late, though the pain remains, and though it may be hard, I'll carry on. Time to rise and shine. Good morning. So the sun reaches my bed. One more day to spend alone again. Morning starts without me. I seem to